And now, Backstage Wife, the story of Mary Noble and what it means to be the wife of a famous star. Late last night, when Mary was visiting in her friend Maud Marlowe's room in the little New York hotel in the theater district where they're both staying, Maud sent downstairs for the morning papers that had just come off the press. And to Mary's surprise and dismay, she found 2 pictures of herself and Rupert Barlow, which Rupert so carefully arranged to have taken without her knowledge. Mary hasn't slept a wink since then. And now in the early morning, she's waiting until visiting time to go to see Larry in the city jail, where he's awaiting trial for the murder of Oliver Wilson at the Hamilton Theater, where Larry had been starring in a play. Finally, after a look at her watch, Mary leaves the room, descends to the lobby in the elevator, and crosses to the desk, where we hear...
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Mrs. Noble. You're up early this morning.
Is it early? Seems to me it ought to be the middle of the day.
It's early for this hotel. Most of the guests in show business, you don't see much of them till afternoon. You want your mail?
Mail? Oh, yes, if there is any. I just meant to leave my key.
No, I'll have a look. Well, yeah, here are your letters.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Do you want your usual morning paper?
No, thank you. I saw it last night when it first came in.
Oh, well, then. And I guess you saw your pictures in the piece Marty Rufus wrote in his gossip column, huh?
Yes, I did.
Hey, you're getting to be a regular feature, Mrs. Noble. Folks will be saying you hired yourself a press agent if you don't watch out. There's plenty that'd pay for publicity like that.
Mr. Burns, how can you joke about such a thing when it's so horrible?
You like that? He's complimented her on the pictures, and she runs out like I'd insulted her or something. The more I see of people around this town, the more I think they're all nuts.
Mary Noble rushes outside and gets into a taxi. And as she starts downtown through the traffic, she thinks...
How am I going to explain this to Larry? How can I make him understand that I had no idea anyone was taking pictures when I accidentally ran into Rupert Barlow? Who could have done such a horrible thing? Just now when it's so important for Larry to have every bit of confidence he can muster. I promised Larry I wasn't seeing Rupert Barlow anymore. And now he'll never believe me. How can he when he sees 2 pictures of us together? One in front of my hotel and the other coming up out of the subway. Those were just accidental meetings. Rupert was just as surprised as I was when we ran into each other. That's why I didn't say anything about it to Larry. I've got to make him understand, for his own sake. But how? I can't understand it myself. Who could have taken those pictures? Does it mean that someone is following me wherever I go? Has Larry arranged to have me watched? No, that's too horrible. He'd never do such a thing. Surely he believed me when I promised him not to see Rupert again. After that terrible day in the visiting room, when he said...
I want you to stop seeing Rupert Barlow. Or else.
Or else. And now what will he say? Why are we just crawling along like this? Oh, Larry. Larry, darling, how I hope I can talk to you before someone shows you that paper.
And at the same time, wealthy Rupert Barlow is propped up in his huge canopied bed in his luxurious Long Island estate, as his manservant Victor brings his breakfast tray. And we hear...
Well, Victor, what about it?
What about what, Mr. Barlow? Did I forget something? It was Cook fixed up the tray.
I'm not talking about the tray, confound it. You know perfectly well what I mean. Why do you think I rang for breakfast at this ghastly hour? I'm speaking of the pictures. Did you get them to Marty Rufus for his column, and did they print them in the paper this morning?
Oh, the pictures. Why, sure, Mr. Barlow. I told you yesterday that I peddled them to Mr. Rufus. I hope you don't ask me to have nothing to do with that guy again. Of all the swell-headed dopes.
Victor, did you bring me the paper? Did you look to see if the pictures appeared?
Sure, boss, they're in. I looked first thing.
Well, then why haven't you brought the paper to me?
I did. Isn't it on your tray? Oh, I know. I had to sneak it away from Miss Julia when she wasn't looking, or she'd have grabbed it.
I don't see why my housekeeper should have first call on my morning paper. Now, let me see it at once.
Sure, Mr. Barlow. Got it folded up in my pocket. Turned right to where the pictures are. See? Right smack at the top of the page and all.
Give that to me. It's not bad, Victor. Even better than I expected. I wonder how the great Larry Noble will feel when he sees this.
He'll blow his top, Mr. Barlow.
I wouldn't wonder. Yes, I've got to hand it to myself. This was a brilliant idea.
Yeah. Hiding a guy with a camera and then fixing it so's you and Mrs. Noble met up. All accidental like.
Exactly. Pretty smart, wasn't it?
I just about run my feet off getting the right guys for the job. If it wasn't for me knowing who to get for the kind of jobs you dream up, you'd find out it wasn't so easy.
Oh, nonsense, Victor. Now, don't try to make yourself sound indispensable. There will always be people on hand to carry out orders. It's the leaders who are important. Don't forget that, the leaders. Yes, it was thought to be the final straw for the happy Nobles. That is, if Larry meant what he said when he commanded his wife not to see me again.
You think maybe she won't figure out you got her into this mix-up, Mr. Barlow? You think she's so dumb she won't see through the whole caper?
Victor, I've arranged for that. In fact, I've thought this out very carefully, and I'm prepared to answer any questions or doubts. Now, all I have to do now is wait until the break, and then Mary Noble will turn to me for comfort.
Maybe.
Please don't interrupt me when I'm thinking. There's no reason for you to stay here, Victor. If I need anything, I'll ring.
Yes, Mr. Barlow. I hope everything stays fine for you.
This is very close to perfect. Larry Noble will make a fool of himself as soon as he sees our pictures together, and no amount of explaining will satisfy him. And I don't wonder. How could anyone explain away these two sharp, clear pictures? Of course, Mary will take a bit of careful handling. She's bound to wonder who's responsible for this. But I'll soon convince her that I had nothing to do with it. Am I not her most devoted friend? Haven't I always tried to help her in every way? By backing her husband's last play. And lately by getting him the finest trial lawyer in the state, even though it turned him down. Well, if he chooses to be ungrateful, can I help it? Not at all. Didn't I accept Mary's explanation with all grace? Yes, it's my turn now, Larry Noble. And let me tell you, it's high time.
Rupert Barlow smiles as he looks again at the pictures and the caption that links his name with Mary's. Meantime, in the city jail, Larry is in his cell as the guard approaches. We hear...
I thought you might be interested in the latest pictures of your wife, Mr. Noble.
What pictures?
Here. There's two of them this time. I got the paper folded right to the page. Boy, she's getting her picture in the papers more regular than a movie star.
Mr. and Mrs. Larry Noble. Rupert Barlow. Rupert Barlow. So this is the way Mary keeps her promise. This is how she stays away from him. Arm in arm and laughing as they come up from the subway. They probably met right outside the jail here. After her visit to me. After she told me she hadn't seen Rupert again. That she wasn't going to see him. But who the devil took these pictures? Is their romance so flagrant that papers are having them followed? Is this the way she stands by me? With all her talk of devotion. How Rupert Barlow must be laughing at me. Knowing that I'm powerless to prevent him from breaking up my home. All right, if this is what Mary wants, she can have him. Let her go to Rupert Barlow for comfort. Let her find out for herself what kind of a man he is.
Hey, Mr. Noble, you want to come along with me to the visiting room? You got company.
Who is it?
Mrs. Noble. She's waiting to see us. Seems kind of anxious about something.
Please tell her I have nothing to say.
Yeah. But look, she's right outside in the visiting room.
I can't see her, guard.
Why not? You ain't going anywhere.
I told you I don't wish to see her.
Well, how are you going to explain? She knows you're here.
She knows I'm here, all right. But this jail that locks me in can also lock out the people I don't want to see.
You mean you don't want to see her? Mrs. Noble? Your own wife?
You heard what I said.
Now, will you please tell Mrs. Noble she needn't bother to come here anymore.
The guard walks away, shaking his head in bewilderment. Larry sits down on his narrow cot, the crumpled newspaper in his hands. Well, be sure to be listening tomorrow to Backstage Wife, the story of Mary Noble and her husband Larry Noble, famous Broadway star.